All right, we're live. Good morning, traders. B. James here, day trading dad. I think we're gonna have an exciting day here on the charts. It is 2 minutes or so until open, and I'm ready to go. It's day before NFP Thursday, so it's a little bit different today. But all in all, I'm looking forward to what I think might be okay price action. Had some consolidation this morning. I took a 30-second long right down here on this inversion, took partials, and then it went into consolidation. So you can see, I'm looking for longs in the upper right-hand corner. Let's see here. What do we got? Kind of just prepping, seeing what happens. I wanted 930 to sell off. And sweep these lows into the 1 hour fair value gap. And it looks like it's doing that. So let's see what happens. It's looking somewhat similar to yesterday's price action. Now, I wish there were better targets up in here. Not tons of trend line. All the targets are up in here. And I like it when there's closer targets. There's this swing. Okay, so there's no longer a gap here. All right, 930 open. Trading down. Okay. These candles are moving kind of fast. 400 ticks in 30 seconds. All right, so we fully traded down into the consequent encroachment of the 4 hour, the 1 hour gap. That's the reversal zone, really, for me. We're pushing much lower than that, and I'm not sure longs are going to be on side. Not feeling very confident about this price action at the moment on NQ here. Look at the wicks on these candles. All my targets are towards buy side. I don't really have much in the way of targets towards sell side. We're trading into a 15-minute fair value gap. So this idea is no longer valid. I'll keep this on the screen just because it gives me a quick reference point for position sizing. If I had to go in really quickly, I want to try to be ahead of my trades. So this is okay. I wish we had more local targets, really. Above us is the regular trading hour gap, midnight open, London high, equal highs. There's a bunch of other stuff. The daily open, the new day opening gap. I don't really like this inversion or this fair value gap if it were to invert. I think we lost SMT. Yeah, no SMT any longer with London lows. So here's our first presented fair value gap right there. So we don't have any SMT at these lows right now. It's selling pretty hard too. This whole dealing range is 800 ticks, 200 handles. The open so far, 150 points. Excuse me, I think I said handles previously. So we do have a larger 3-minute fair value gap right there. Just don't see any SMT. Not stoked on the targets either. Oh, now we have some SMTs showing. But it's also not an amazing 3-candle formation. Or 3 or 4. It's not a super V-shaped recovery. At the moment, it could still come up here. I don't want that candle to close because then the stop loss needs to be like way down there. Which is too little risk and too much risk depending on whether they're going with 2 or 1 contracts. I think if this was like A+, I'd be all for the two contracts. This is A- to me. It's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting longs from a discount. But I also don't like these 1-minute candles a ton. We're staying disciplined here today. Discipline is the edge. I know a lot of people struggle with psychology and emotions and want to be disciplined. And being disciplined is easier than you think, in my opinion, because discipline can be created with systems, frameworks, and mathematics. And that's done a lot for me in my trading in terms of improving my trading. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. It helps grow the channel. I'm a small channel, but I think I have some good stuff to offer to anyone who's not made it as far as I have. Obviously, I'm still learning myself. And, likes help as well. Any of that would be greatly appreciated. So see how this is just consolidating here. Just a reminder, walking into this session, I don't have to take any trades. I took a trade up in here this long for a partial, and maybe that's it for the day. Hope not. So here's my trading scorecard for June. Lots of missed R. I guess we're on a new month, aren't we? We're in July. Okay, so I get to start over for my consistency scorecard. You can see, other than the missed R, I did pretty well last month. 95%, 87%. I had a tougher week because of this day. I did experience some difficulty and took a revenge trade. But last week was an A+, 99%. And yeah, you can see the performance curve. So this is like a moving average for my performance. How well did I follow my rules? How emotionless was I? And we can see it's graded off of rules, execution, emotion, the setup itself, and then the context. And this trading scorecard, my Consistency Lab app, has been so helpful in kind of keeping my head level and making sure that I'm on top of my emotions and being disciplined, because you're not going to make money in the long term if you're not disciplined, right? And then this is the scatter chart. So are your profits coming from process or luck? And so far what we can see is a lucky green day means you broke your rules, but you won. And I have none of those. This down here, this red is a process failure day. That is, I broke my rules and I lost. And then here's just a distribution of, followed your rules. And it's a spectrum. Here's 80% to 100%. Followed your rules and won. Followed your rules and broke even. Followed your rules and were green. The 1 minute doesn't look very nice. Maybe the 5 minute I would trust. There's a 3 minute gap as well. I like that a little better. But we'd be doing 1 micro because I would have a bigger stop. Something like that, probably. And we still haven't closed above this 1 minute. 30 seconds, not looking great. You know, the 3-minute looks okay, and if we're bullish, we want to buy below 930 open. You know, the targets look good up in here. Not as much up in here. ES looks better. Some relative equals right there. Time-wise, 10:40, 9:43. And we have a... Excuse me. Oh boy. A new 15-minute candle. In 1 minute. And you'll notice, you know, as I'm sizing this like 1 micro, that's for psychology for me. I have it set up to copy trade, but I'm still not able to push my risk up too high in these markets. And I'm doing it slow too, because it's not about making the money. It's about perfecting my craft and not screwing myself up along the way. And that's a hard thing because, you know, I want to start making the money, you know, but it's more about process than profits. And I got to stick to that and adhere to that. And in time, it'll come. You know, I can't, it's like either I'm risking too much or too little in these markets with how volatile they are. And it's been that way for a couple weeks now, as I'm sure you've noticed. Looks like there's a little volume imbalance, potentially with this fair value gap, little one. Doesn't matter a ton because that doesn't really change where my stop loss is going to be. My stop loss is going to be the body, below the body of the candle that opened or closed below the fair value gap. And I'm seeing this as a suspension block up in here, kind of all these little imbalances on the 3 minutes. So that's why I'm not including those. All right, so I need to decide in the next minute and 20 if I'm going to take this. You know, I'm going to give this whole thing an A-. It's... The context is what I want it to be. The model itself and the liquidity is not as A+ as I would like. Still, and it's just like on the border where for a day like today, I kind of want to make it a little more obvious, but maybe it's good enough. All right. Candle did not close above this gap right there. Could use the 5-minute gap. And that's a lot more V-shaped looking. It's a 4-candle formation, which looks pretty nice. Building some local liquidity down in here on the 1 minute. Be interesting to see what happens here. ES is these really nice equal highs up in there, and it didn't close above that 5-minute gap. Three-minute closes here in a few seconds. All right, we'll give it a shot. This is A minus, in my opinion. But I'm hoping that the messing around, the stalling out is behind us and we can just run to targets. We shall see. I may be right, I may be wrong. What I am doing here is I'm only going to do 1-to-1. I found last week I had to go in with one mic on my trades and I would try to hold for my 2.5R. And they would hit TP1, come back to break even. So I'd go break even at TP1 and hold out for 2.5R. And they would go to TP1, come back to break even, and then run to 2.5 without me. So 3 of the 4 trades did that, which means I would have been better off simply TPing at 1R. And I would have had 3 out of 4 winners versus 4 out of 4 break evens. All right, so this is a 9:48, 3-minute long. 1 mic, 1-to-1. right, let's see what it does. I mean, my targets are all up here. We have the electronic trading hours gap. We have 12 a.m. London high. We have these relative equal highs. The only thing bugging me out is the local liquidity is a little bit less desirable. I wish there was some better trend line right in here, or some equal highs right in here nearby the entry point of the trade. That would make me feel better. And also the buildup of liquidity down in here is not making me totally stoked, but it's not also that built up on the 3 minute. A little bit, just a little bit. All right, so it retested this 3 minute gap right there. Let's see what it does. So the 5 minute candle did close above that inversion right there. What I don't want is I don't want to sit in a trade forever. If the 3 minute starts slowing down, I might want to get out of it, just because that's not, I don't like that. I don't like sitting in trades forever. You know, if the 3 minutes started to consolidate, I could be here for an hour in this trade. We have 2 minutes until the next 1 hour candle opens up, and then same thing on the next 15-minute candle. And I don't like how it's just stalling out right here at all. It's consolidating. Which I don't really want to be a part of. And my rules say I can exit break even on consolidation trades. So I'm going to do that. If it's not going, what time is it? 9:58. It should be spooling by now. There it goes a little bit. But just seeing how price consolidated pretty poorly right in here pre-market, and it was pre-market, I'll give it that. But also, it's not really pushing with strength. And it's not to say that it can't, but in my experience, if it doesn't just distribute, it becomes more of a 50-50 scenario like these candles right here were expanding, you know, they had a lot of movement inside them, but nonetheless, they were expanding. So I saw these candles and I'm like, yeah, I could get behind that. And then look at this, the last two candles weren't expanding. And yeah, sometimes there's consolidation, but I'm used to being on the 1 minute, not the 3 minute. And so what I don't want to see is I don't really want to see this right here. This kind of thing going on. Cool. TP. All right, 2 W's for the day. I'll take it. And then what I do is I have extensive notes because I always like look back and I'm like, well, what did I do? Why did I take that? Why did I think that? So this was a 1-to-1 W. This was PA 1 and 8. 3-minute IFVG trade grade. A minus. Logic was for London buy side. Pros was it was in discount. It was in a 1 and a 4 hour fair value gap. There was SMT. There was equals, high probability targets. 12 a.m. regular trading hour gap. What else do we have? New day opening gap. Cons. So A minus for local HRLR. Context clarity score. Higher time frame aligned? Yes, it's aligned. Time. Does it make sense that this is the low of the session? Yes. Discount premium? Yes, it's in discount. Major liquidity sweep? Yes, we have 1 hour, 4 hour session. Do we have an ERL target? Yes. No unresolved opposing liquidity? Yes, there is no unresolved. No news. We know we're the day before NFP. I want to call this maybe 50%. And then yeah, A grade displacement. So PA grade, I'm going to call it an A minus. The pros are it was distributing before entry, slowed after entry. Trade management, I'm going to give myself an A. Used 1 minute consolidation for break even. Emotions, very little, which is good. Just noting very little emotions. Other notes, felt it was slow if it was going to distribute, which then makes me kind of feel like wonder if I'm off sides on the trade. And then we had, of course, 1 minute liquidity building. So there's a couple reasons to be more conservative in this trade, in my opinion. You know, the trade didn't look as nice, but it looked like it was the low of the day, in my opinion, the low of the session. So for me, I had a range of basically this zone Wrong tool. This zone to this zone was kind of my range for where I wanted to see the low of the day. Ideally, I wanted to see it right here. It could come all the way down into here, and it would still be acceptable. And then below this, I would just be assumed to be off sides for the day. So two accounts up 400 from two partials. That's partial trades. I'll take it. I guess maybe I shouldn't have done that. That kind of goes against my MO on this channel, is not looking at P&Ls. Obviously, I just showed you my trading card. I don't remember the last time I showed my TradeZella at this point. It's probably a month ago. And there's a reason for that. When I go into TradeZella, this is where I click to. I go here to this page as my home page. I have it bookmarked up here in my bookmarks. And so that way I come straight to trade view. I don't see the daily P&L. I don't see whether I'm red or green on the day or the week. I just see my trades. And the two trades I've taken today. Oh, this is a backtesting session. Oh, well, that's why. That's not accurate. Let me open up a new tab. I have 3 tabs over here that are backtesting sessions. There we go. Open. Well, it's not closed yet. And so then that makes more sense. I looked at this cumulative P&L and my brain didn't, I'm sitting here talking and my brain didn't make sense of to like, well, that doesn't seem right. But it also did at the same time. Well, it's a backtesting session I'm going through. But anyways, this is the page that I come to in my TradeZella. I ignore the dashboard and the calendar view until the end of the month or the end of the week, just to grab some data from that. Ultimately, what I use for my trading dashboard is this and this. These are the 2 things. And even then, I might want to downgrade the quality of price action here today. Look at on the 1 minute, the 3 minute was cleaner. But the 1 minute, where I typically am, you can just see that these candles have a lot of, 5-second high resistance liquidity running going on in between them. But I think that's it for me today. I'm good on this session. I took 2 W's. My drawn liquidity is higher. I don't like how these candles are moving. And I just don't think I'm going to see anything else that I'm interested in. And I'd rather not tempt myself with half-formed setups. And so I'm going to walk away until maybe lunchtime. I'll come back at the charts around 12:20 or so and see if there's a lunch trade model forming. But otherwise, ready to take a break after, being on the charts for 2 hours, basically. Came down here at 8 o'clock, 8:40. I guess it's an hour and a half, roughly, but still. I think that's okay for today. Some days are about being content, and I'm content. So I think that's a great place to cut the stream, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.